We'll start our discussion on this monitoring part. Monitoring and then troubleshooting those things. See, when we are speaking about this monitoring and then troubleshooting, you need to be a little bit smart enough to do these things. I mean, you just don't follow blind rules anywhere when you think about troubleshooting because same problem may be occurred for different reasons in different situations. So you have to handle them differently. So that's why the term I'm using. You need to be smart enough to do that. So most of the times, what people will try to do is they'll try to do the troubleshooting with their own knowledge, but that's not enough. Most of the cases, that's not enough. So usually that's what happens, and then you need to look for resources where we can find related information. See, SAP is providing you a lot of information. Just try to utilize it. So that's where you need to be a little bit smart to identify where I can find the right information, which information I should use for analysis of these problems. So for that, a few important things I'll give you to begin with. Just remember them, which are very significant, particularly for this topic. The first and foremost thing is if you go to help.sap.com, SAP is providing you a document called Performance Analysis and Troubleshooting Guide. Depending on the version of your database, you get that document. I'm just showing a bit old one, but you can download the latest one from help.sap.com. So this is the document I'm speaking about, SAP HANA Troubleshooting and Performance Analysis Guide. That's very, very important document. So making sure that this document is there always with you. That's SAP provided only. So keep it with you always. What is speciality in this document? Why I'm telling you this such an important thing? The main thing what SAP has focused on this particular document is they have given clearly the root causes and solutions. That's a pretty good thing they did. Is what exactly we need actually. When SAP started providing this only from SPS 8 1.0 SPS 8 version. Earlier to that, we used to struggle a lot. But anyhow, SAP with whatever the experiences they have already, they've released this document, root causes and solutions, where they've clearly categorized the root causes. Like if memory problems, if you come across memory problem, what you're supposed to do, where you'll get the information, how to analyze it. Similarly, CPU related problems, disk related things, everything they're given here clearly in this document. That's why it's such an important thing for you. And they're given even some screenshots also, like if you go to administrator editor, you'll get this information. So how to go to those screens and how to analyze that information, everything they're given there. And moreover, they'll give you reference to a lot of SAP notes here and there. Okay, these kind of problems, you go to this note number, refer to that note number, and always get the latest information available in the note and try to utilize it to fix those problems. Okay, so that's the first thing. And second thing is in this document itself, they'll give you one SAP note I'll just tell you that note number 1969700. If you want, you can note it down. 1969700. This one. It's a very, very important thing. I'll tell you what is the significance of that note. See, generally when you are working with the database, we need a lot of information for analysis. A lot of data you need for analysis. Generally what happens, you'll get that most of the information required for you in this graphical screens only. Suppose if you are working with HANA Studio, if you go to this administrator editor on the right hand side, you'll get a lot of information there. They're giving memory details, processor usages, disk usages, diagnosis information they are giving, traces configuration we can do, all that they are doing. Similarly, if you go to HANA Cockpit, HANA Cockpit also, we know that it's a centralized monitoring and administration tool. You'll get information about multiple databases running in the company. A lot of details they are provided there, presented in the graphical screens. So generally reading this information available in the graphical screens, analyzing that information will be more easier for you. So that's why SAP is providing that. But don't assume that every information required for you for your analysis is provided in the graphical screens. That never happens. That they cannot do. What are the information they are providing in the graphical screens? Only a part information. It's not complete information which you need for your analysis. So in such cases, when you need more information for your analysis, obviously what we have to do, you need to gather or get that information from your underlying system tables. Maybe system tables are there. Sometimes they'll give you views. You should read those tables or views and get that information and analyze that information. But if you want to remember all those database tables and you want to write your own SQL statements, that will be very complicated. Very, very complicated. How many you can remember? How many tables you can remember? How many views we can remember? And writing those statements every time will be difficult for you. That's why what SAP is doing here is, if you go to System Information tab, here in the System Information tab, default you don't find this one. I'll remove it. Default what you find is this predefined system statements. What are these predefined system statements? All these are nothing but SQL statements only. All these are SQL statements. SAP provided ready-made SQL statements. You just right click on this statement and execute it. You'll get information there. So it's all coming from your system tables only. If you click on open in SQL console, it will show you what is that select statement is. Advantage for you is you don't need to remember all these table names. You don't need to write this SQL statement on your own. SAP is giving it, execute it, and get the information. But what are the statements they're given here? There are very few. Actually, how many you have? 15, 20? What do you do with these 20 statements? Very little information we have here. So that's why what SAP has done is, as we need to get a lot more information for our analysis most of the times, when you go to that SAP note, whichever the note number I have given just now, 1969700, is a huge collection of SQL statements are given, SAP provided ones. Just go to that note. There is attachment available. A zip file is attached. Download that zip file. That zip file looks like this. Here it is. SQL statement zip file. Older version used to be only SQL. Now it's given it as SQL state. Now, once you download that zip file, then what you do is come to HANA Studio. This facility is there only in HANA Studio. And here under System Information in Administrator Editor, right click on this Import SQL Statements. Select that zip file. And it will be imported. Now, see the speciality of this. They given a lot of SQL statements, and they're too properly categorized. Configuration related, connections related, data related, disk related, everything separately, memory related, license related. So anything you want, just go to that respective folder, just right click on this and click on execute. So it will show you time interval, current, license limit in GB, and what's the usage, the percentage. Nothing much you are using. It's a huge license limit is there here. So those things we can find out easily. I don't need to remember all the tables now. It's giving hardware key, SID, installation number, the limit, the usage, expiry, how many days you have. It's basically a temporary license, what you see is. Permanent, no, it's temporary. Where do you get this information from? Actually, you're supposed to write this select statement, reading from a particular table. And that to see so much of formatting they did here. M underscore license type. This is what I'm speaking about. Smartness is all about this. If you can do these things, it becomes easy for you to analyze the problems, troubleshoot the issues. Okay, so another point you need to remember here is generally when you're running your HANA database, when you go to your overview tab itself, here it is giving current alerts and messages in case if you have any alerts that it will show you clearly. As of now, there we don't have any alerts in the database. Let us see this one. See two medium priority alerts you have. If you click on show alerts, it will show you that. What it's saying is system database backup does not exist. You cannot recover without backup. So data backup does not exist. You should take the backup. So you know what to do now. You know how to perform the backups. You'll do it. It's a simple thing. So system is performing the checks regularly. Check It's checking the database whether the backup is there or not, memory is full or not. All these checks are performed continuously. It's happening. So you can see here check information is showing and on schedule is showing. Yes, that's going on. So apart from this, whenever we need, sometimes what we can perform is we can perform something called mini checks. So if you want to perform those mini checks on your own, what you do is go back to this system information tab. Here we have configuration. In that SQL statements given by SAP, we have something called mini checks, and depending on the version of your database, you choose that and right click and click on execute. So version is important. Sometimes if you're trying to execute with non-compatible versions, it doesn't execute. Like this is 2.0, but see, so RC is there. In this case, here it is 2.00 plus. This will work. That is 2.01. So now what it's doing is it's checking the entire database. Again, has some set of values. So you can say check values. If anything doesn't fall into that limit, then automatically it will give you a message for you saying that okay, this is the problem, this value is the problem, and all. Is actually a pretty good option, a really good option. So see that here check ID, they're given description, they're given what's the host on which it's happening, what's the value, expected value, whether it's within the limit or not, you can verify. Okay, so this is the best thing. You have the given host with the wrong CPU types. Yes, cross mark is showing here. What are the CPU? I'm using AMD processors here. They are not supported for HANA actually. That's why it's giving that message to you there. Okay, so this is the value, that's the value like that. I think I've sorted it, just a minute. Okay, so here you can see that host with wrong CPUs. So you don't know what to do, or maybe, see, I know that AMD is not supported, but still I'm running because it's just only a training system. But if you want to know which are those processors supported, compatible processor, all that information, if you don't have, you can just refer to this SAP note. That's the best part of it. You don't get anything better than this. There is checking, description it's giving, on which host it's happening, what's the value, expected value, whether it's matching or not, it's showing that. If not, what to do also is given clearly if you can go to that respective SAP node. So there, and that also categorization you have if you see clearly first operating system, then memory, then tables, everything they're given. Traces, statistics, transactions analysis, backups. See, so much of information you have. So this is a really helpful things. The best part is giving that SAP note numbers for each and every activity or each and every check. So first to understand these things, how to utilize that information given by SAP. So then based on that, whatever is given in those documents, start doing analysis. Like here I have memory, processor, disk usages, all other lots of things they provided here. So that you try to analyze. Okay, so let us start with the monitoring part related to memory first. So I'll explain you how we can memory can be analyzed. What are the options we have? So if you go to this HANA Studio, so when we double click on the system and you will get your administrator in the overview tab itself, along with all the general information, you also have the memory information like HANA used memory, resident memory. And they are using different terms here if you observe. They're speaking about user memory, peak user memory, allocation limit. Then there's the concept of resident memory. And that also database resident, total resident, physical memory and all this. So first try to understand the terms what they're using here. Physical memory, you know that. Physical memory is nothing but the RAM you have in the machine that host. Example you take here, it will be more. See, 141.66, that much of physical memory we have. And then based the allocation limit we have here. Allocation limit I told you at the time of installation itself. Whenever you're doing installation, system is asking you to specify the memory restriction by using allocation limit. If you restrict the maximum memory allocation, that will be shown there. If you did not restrict it at that time, I told you about a formula. 90% of the first 64 GB, and then on top of that, whatever you have, 97% of that will be taken, and that allocation will be shown. This allocation limit you can change based on your requirement. If you go to configuration tab, you have that parameter, allocation limit parameter. You can change that value. You can fix it if you want. So then you can also observe that we have these terms like used memory, peak user memories. User memory 15.54 for this database we have, and the peak usages went up to 21.68. So the database resident also is showing 19 point something, and total resident 127 is showing there. So what is the difference between these terms what they're using? So whenever your database is installed and started, the database default database uses some memory. Its database uses the memory for different things. It uses the memory for uh, code and stack. It uses the memory for system tables and row store tables, column store tables, DBMS, and you have memory pools, all these things. So to understand those terms, just look at this diagram. So this will give you a basic idea about the memory of HANA. See what they mentioned about HANA used memory. As I told you just now, memory used by the HANA database for quote and stack, system tables, row store, column store, and DBMS. And then some additional memory pool available as and when needed. It will take the memory from this memory pool. So, but you see, as of now, this is the used memory. The memory used by your database here is this much, 15.54. But what is the meaning of peak used is, while the processing is taking place, memory usages will go up because depending on the processing happening there, any complex queries need to be executed. There will be some intermediate results that's generated, and that also need to be stored in the memory. So all that happens in the memory means when the processing takes place, the usages goes up. But maybe once the processing completes, it may come down. But that peak usage you should know because always you need to keep eye on the peak usages only. Peak usage never crosses this allocation limit. If your allocation limit is 132 GB, that's it. Maximum it will go up to that. It cannot cross that limit. No way. But if these peak usages are reaching up to these allocation limits, obviously you'll start feeling that performance issues definitely. Because what actually database does is whenever the memory is not sufficient for further processing, if you don't have sufficient memory, in such cases, what happens? Don't think that it will stop processing. It doesn't stop processing. Now, whatever the memory I have, it's full now. A new request comes for processing. That table data is not available in the memory. It has to be loaded from the disk to memory. Then, in such cases, what happens is system will apply that LRU algorithm. There is something called LRU algorithm. You might have heard about it. Least recently used. Least recently used. So it uses that LRU algorithm, and what are the least recently used object we have, like tables, they will be unloaded from the memory. So now, in the place of that, the required table will be loaded. But if this loading unloading is happening frequently because of the memory issue, so that will lead to performance issues definitely. Anyhow, you'll get alert messages also saying that your memory is full so much, or sometimes even you get some OOM errors, out of memory issues also. Careful there. So whatever that memory we are speaking about, like now 15.54 is used and additional memory required. That's all virtual. What we are seeing is all virtual. Whatever we are discussing is virtual, but somewhere physically it should reside, and that will be residing in the physical RAM. That's why that what we call it as resident memory. So it's residing in the physical RAM. So there will be database resident and there will be uh, a total resident. Here, if you look at this, HANA database needs some memory that is resided in the physical RAM. Not only just HANA, even other programs and operating systems running, they also need that memory. They are also residing there. So effectively that we call it as total resident. So this will actually tell you, see, database resident, this database resident is 19.10 only. The total resident is 127. Meaning of that is operating system and other programs are occupying a lot of RAM here. So more than 100 GB is used for others. So maybe there is actually in this case I'm running a heavy application. That's why it's showing like that. So that clarity also will get clearly. Whether only this database is running or anything else is running also we can find out easily. That's a specialty. But whatever the information they are presenting here, it's just an overview information. And you want to have a bit of detailed information like which service, how much memory is utilizing and all that, you can click on more information. It will take you to the services tab of your landscape. Here we can find memory usages separately. How much is for daemon, how much is for this one, compile servers and all that. And yeah, that's only a system DB doesn't have index server. Look at this one. So here you can see index server is the one which is occupying more memory. Usages, peak usages, service wise also you can find out. But if you're looking for this information even more detailed level, like as I told you, memory is utilized for code and stack, row stores, column store. That separation you want to have, that information either you can use SQL statement or even Cockpit will do. Cockpit is also having that facility. Cockpit presentation will be a lot better because they'll give you dashboards, memory dashboards. Registered. Okay. Here, this is specialty cockpit. If you come to cockpit, it's showing all the different databases. Which are those databases with the top resources with alerts? This one is having alert like that. You can find out easily. Anyhow, let me show you where you have that uh, memory usages. In detail in the form of dashboards. See here, once we come to cockpit, here monitoring and administration, overall database status is showing. Click on this running services, showing all the services running here along with the CPU usage and memory usages. And here the memory, just that bar is there, click on that bar. Now it will take you to the dashboards, detailed information. See that user memory of service component index server, complete details you have, which includes system, column store tables, row store tables, statement execution, intermediate result sets, code and stack, how much is used, every single detail is available. Column store tables, how much it's utilizing. Subcomponent level also that will give you, including the dashboards. So that's the specialty in this. So more information, better presentation you have in cockpit compared to this HANA Studio. So that you should get into analyze that information given to you as per the document I shown you, right? That performance analysis and troubleshooting guide. In that they'll give you the same things, same screens actually. If you see, look at this. Whatever I shown you just now. So how to analyze that also they'll give you. And apart from this, the KPIs, the key performance indicators, performance monitoring also we can do. Now you identified that your database, the memory usages, peak usages went up to some number, say 18 GB here or whatever it is. Now you want to know when that peak usage happened. Does it happen today morning or yesterday evening? When it happened, that you want to find out. So you want to monitor that memory usages, how they are fluctuating, when it's utilizing the more memory and all. So that you can do. So that you can do in something called, you know, load monitor, or we also call it as performance monitoring. So to do that performance monitoring, go to performance tab. Under that, there's a sub tab called load. There you can find a graphical visualization. All the KPIs are available here. All the KPIs, which includes your memory, your processor, your disk IO, your network, everything like this. So CPU and memory, database used memory showing. So here you can see it went up all of a sudden. Here little bit fluctuation is there. Here it went up really. So that you'll get an idea when the usages are happening more. 12,199 MB here, the peak. So if you don't want CPU, don't select CPU. If you want CPU, select CPU also we can select. And this also you can change the scale you can change. These 5 minutes intervals with each one will be 1 minute cell here. 36, 37, 38, 39, 40 like that. So it will give even more accurate information. So it happened somewhere at the time of 9:55 to 9:57, 9:58 like that. So very useful things is KPIs, and you can look at these KPIs here also in HANA Cockpit. If you just come down a little bit under monitoring and administration, here you can see the memory usage, CPU usages, disk usages, all this comes under KPIs. So click on memory usage, the tile. It will show you the memory usages. You want only database resident memory or database used memory. Only that you can select. Physical memory usage. This is total resident, database resident. Allocation limit is fixed. Out of this much is allocated. And it's fluctuated. Chats and all that you can change, modify. This is split chats. For every memory usage separately showing the chats. It keeps on refreshing. Other KPIs you want to select, click on show more KPIs. You can change. Suppose I want to know the CPU usages. The CPU usages. Okay, so you can utilize this information also. memory usages pointer. And apart from that, as I just shown you already that if you go to volumes, I mean system information, you go to the imported SQL statements, memory related, you have separately here. Memory. So everything they are given, top consumers, SQL cache, shared memory. Overview information. So license memory, physical memory, allocation limit, everything. Formatted outputs, column store. And any memory related alerts you have, you can check here. And here, if you click on configure, threshold values will be there. Memory usages 90, 93, 95. I changed actually. The default will have 100% high. I don't want to wait till that time, so I just changed it. You want to modify, you can modify. And based on that, alerts will be displayed here. And as I mentioned, memory is not sufficient sometimes for processing and all that. That OOM issues occurs more, out of memory errors. So that happens. That also you can find out. Just type OOM in the diagnosis files. It will show you that out of memory. Another most important thing is tables. Also, you need to keep an eye on the table memories. Frequently access tables if they complain about performances. Always check the delta memories. If delta memory is drastically increasing or it's very high, the delta merge is not happening, you perform it manually, which is not needed generally, but if needed. So keep an eye on this delta memory consumption and delta storage. That's also important. And which tables are accessing frequently and all that you can monitor here. Monitor table usage. Frequently access tables based on read write operations. So there is one table DD02T. Other day we used it, right? That's what is shown. Total reads and total writes. The small tables. 8L, 2L, SQ. So you can also table this. This is basically column tables by access. We are doing it, and you can apply your filters here. Greater than how many times access, read operations, only based on read operations, only based on write operations. How many you want to display? Okay, so one thing for sure, whatever I'm telling you here, read the document, read this document. Instantly, one day itself, you cannot do it. It's step by step. It'll take a lot of time, years of experience you need to analyze, to troubleshoot. Even after you work in this database for 5 years or 10 years, still you have to continue using those documents. Get the latest version and try to utilize it. And one more thing in this diagram, there is a term they're using here called virtual memory. That is there in your HO200 document also. There is a confusion in the people. They are comparing this with the swap space we use in operating systems. No, that's different. This is different. Don't mix both of them. Here, virtual means it's not visible. That's it. It's the meaning of virtual. Don't compare this with swap space you have in your operating systems. Different things. And as I mentioned, that always keep an eye on the peak usages of your memory, peak memory usages of your database. And in case it's reaching that maximum limit already we are given, so better look into that to upgrade your configurations. Otherwise, frequent loading, unloading happening for your tables in such situations also, it's better you think about scalability, increase the configuration, scale up or scale out, which we know how to do it, so that you perform so that there is some additional memory and you won't have that performance issues. This is somewhat things related to your memory. Similarly, I'll explain you how the processor related things can be dealt with. First, I'll explain you the process of execution of a request, which I told you in the architecture itself. Anyhow, I'll explain you the process once again, and I'll show you where that information is available to you in HANA Cockpit as well as in your HANA Studio. How to analyze that information for processing purpose. So tomorrow we'll discuss on that, and I'll also show you how to deal with your disk related information. So then another session will take up how to handle those diagnosis files, traces and all that. Okay.